I was looking at some stats the other day about online learning. It's fascinating. Everyone is obsessed with hacks. How to learn a language in 3 weeks, how to master coding in a month, how to speed read a book in an hour. We live in this culture where speed is basically synonymous with intelligence. If you're fast, you're smart. If you're slow, you're falling behind. But today, I want to pull the emergency brake on that whole concept.
It is exhausting just listening to that list. But you're right. We treat information like fast food. We want to consume it as quickly as possible, get the calories, and move on. But the material we are looking at today argues something completely radical. It suggests that in deep learning specifically, when you're trying to change how you function or perceive, the world speed isn't just unhelpful, it's actually a form of avoidance.
Avoidance? That's a strong word. Usually when I'm rushing through a course, I feel like I'm being productive. I'm checking boxes. But you're suggesting that by rushing, I'm actually hiding from the material?
Exactly. Think about it. When you read a book or watch a lecture at 2x speed, you are engaging with it intellectually. You are collecting concepts. You can nod and say, "Yes, I understand the syntax of that sentence," but have you integrated it? Has it changed your nervous system? The source material we're discussing today revolves around this figure of a tutor. Let's call him a guide whose entire job isn't to teach, but to slow the student down.
That sounds incredibly frustrating. Imagine paying for a course. You're all excited to get to the advanced techniques, and the tutor is standing there saying, "No, stop. Sit with this basic concept for another week." I'd probably ask for a refund.
And that reaction is exactly why the tutor exists. The guide points out that most students don't struggle because the material is too hard. They struggle because they are trying to move faster than their internal system can handle. It's like trying to pour a gallon of water into a cup. If you pour it all at once, 90% of it spills on the floor. You feel like you did the work you poured the water, but the cup is empty.
That's a great image. So, the good student in this context isn't the one who finishes the module first.
Far from it. In this framework, speed usually means skipping. The good student is the one who knows when to pause. It's the person who stops and says, "Wait, I understand this concept in my head, but I don't feel it in my body yet." That distinction is everything. It's the difference between knowing the definition of balance and actually being able to walk a tightrope.
So let's dig into that interaction between the student and the guide. If the guide isn't there to lecture, what are they doing? Because the text mentions that the guide shouldn't give ready-made answers.
Right. This is the hardest part for modern learners to accept. We are conditioned to ask, "What should I do?" We encounter a problem, and we want the instruction manual. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. But the guide here refuses to answer that question, because if they give you the answer, they rob you of the development.
It's like the difference between using a GPS and actually knowing the city. If I use GPS, I get to the destination, but I have no idea where I am. If the GPS breaks, I'm lost.
Precisely. The guide wants you to develop an internal compass. If you ask, "What should I do in this situation?" that's actually considered a poor question in this methodology. It shows you haven't stayed with the material long enough to feel the reality of it. You're just looking for a script to perform. A good question comes from contact. It sounds like, "I'm noticing this specific sensation, and I'm confused about whether it's a reaction or something else."
I see. One is asking for a fix, the other is asking for clarification on an experience. That's a subtle shift, but it's huge. It requires you to be vulnerable, doesn't it? You have to admit, I'm in the messy middle part of learning.
And nobody likes the messy middle. We crave certainty. We want to be told, "You are doing it right." The text highlights this as a major trap seeking reassurance instead of presence. When you are constantly checking to see if you're doing it right, you aren't actually doing it. You're watching yourself do it. You've split your attention.
That reminds me of when people learn a sport, like tennis or golf. If you're constantly thinking about the angle of your elbow, you can't actually hit the ball fluidly. You're too in your head.
Yes, and there is another layer to this. The material mentions a very common mistake: applying techniques too early. This is the danger of the toolkit mentality. We learn a new psychological or physical technique, and immediately we want to go out and fix our lives with it. It's like giving a power drill to a toddler. Just because you have the tool doesn't mean you have the wisdom or the stability to use it safely.
I'm guilty of that. I read a psychology book and suddenly I'm analyzing all my friends at dinner.
We all do it. It gives us a sense of power. But the guide's role is to say, put the drill down, look at the wall first, understand the material you're working with. Real learning involves a period of observation where you don't do anything. You just notice. And that is excruciatingly difficult for high achievers.
It feels like passivity, but you're saying it's actually an active form of patience.
Active patience. I like that. It's about letting the lesson settle. The text uses this beautiful phrase: the lesson needs to become something lived rather than just something understood intellectually. That process of settling takes time. It's biological almost. You can't rush digestion. You can't rush a tree growing. Why do we think we can rush wisdom?
So, if we stop rushing, and we stop asking for quick fixes, how do we know we're actually making progress? Because without those external badges or completed modules, I'd feel a bit lost. How does a student know they are ready to move on?
The metric changes completely. It shifts from information to orientation. Think about your neighbourhood. You don't need a map to walk to the corner store. You don't have to memorize the steps. You just go. It's part of you. The guide suggests that you're ready to move on when you no longer need to remind yourself of the next step. It just happens naturally.
That's a high bar. That means true learning is when the effort disappears.
Exactly. When the concept stops being a thing, you have to remember and starts being the lens through which you see the world. But to get there, you have to be willing to sit in the confusion. You have to be willing to not know for a while.
And that brings us back to the role of the guide. They aren't there to pull you out of the confusion, but to sit there with you and make sure you don't panic and run away.
Or run forward blindly. The guide is the gatekeeper of pace. They are the ones saying, I know you want to run, but you need to walk. It's an act of care. It's protecting the student from their own ambition.
It's funny, isn't it? We usually think of a strict teacher as someone who demands more work, faster results. But here, the strictness is about slowing you down. Don't rush, is the command.
And don't rush is perhaps the most countercultural advice you can give today. But if we look at the things we truly value: deep relationships, mastery of an art, genuine wisdom, none of them were built in a hurry. If you feel the urge to skip ahead, that urge itself is a signal. It's a signal that you're uncomfortable with where you are, and the only way out is through.
It really reframes the whole learning journey. It's not a race to the finish line, it's a deepening. It's vertical, not horizontal.
Vertical is a perfect way to put it. You aren't covering ground, you're digging a foundation, and if you dig a shallow foundation because you're in a hurry, the house will eventually collapse. The guide is just the building inspector ensuring you're safe.
So, for everyone listening who is currently trying to learn something new, whether it's a professional skill, a personal development course, or even a hobby, maybe the best thing they can do today is stop.
Stop, breathe, and ask yourself, am I trying to finish this, or am I trying to let this change me? If you're just trying to finish, you might as well not have started. But if you're willing to let it change you, you have to give it the time it needs.
Let the lesson settle. Don't force the fruit to ripen. It's a lesson in patience as much as it is in the subject matter.
And ultimately, that patience is the lesson. The content is just the vehicle. The real transformation is learning to stay present with yourself even when you don't have the answers yet. That is what the guide is truly teaching.
It's a powerful thought to leave on. In a world of 2x speed, the most radical act might just be hitting pause. Thanks for breaking this down with me.
My pleasure. It's always good to slow down.